Fasten your seatbelts.
Last man standing.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Get rid of this echo here. Addy Ads here, Adikin. This is a YouTube live stream. We're live on Entropy for the chat, and I'll put the Entropy chat in the live chat if people want to give super chats and or do uncensored chat as well. You can do that over on Entropy. We're also live on brand NewTube. This is a brand new tube broadcast as well. Live with Deep Journo Uncensored, aka GW. And I'm joined by Detroit Dave Underdown, Tom CIA, Andy, aka Uncle Randy, and of course the big man himself, George Webb. And George wanted to just discuss the last few days' events and just kind of review over everything that's transpired, what with the great YouTube purge, our class action lawsuit versus YouTube and Google. And we're fueled up. We just had a great dinner. So we're going to have a great live stream here. We got about 10, 15 people in the stream already. So I want to welcome everybody. And I'm going to pass it off to George now.
Yeah. So I thought we'd do a summary because we have done a lot of longer term. Whoops, the other way. Okay, we've done a lot of long live streams, and I thought, hey, let's have one where we just summarize everything so that you can send all your friends and family and everyone to this, and try to shorten my story down to absolutely as short as possible, so people understand the Hunter Biden thing. And it basically comes down to two big events. One, discovering the House Blackberries, and two, being left a Senate State Department Blackberry. Those are the two parts of the story. They come together to explain kind of 6 years of history of these Trump coups. So you don't have to believe that. You can think it's somebody else doing some other thing. Some other coup is coming from some other place. But what this investigation is bringing you is real evidence, real witnesses. And it's one thing for you to consider. You can consider other evidence if you want to. But the story is two parts. One, there's House Blackberries. Two, there are Senate Blackberries. One, House Blackberries, Nancy Pelosi, Paul Pelosi, Adam Schiff, all those folks, okay, in the House, with Hillary Clinton and Anthony Weiner in the House, Rahm Emanuel in the House, Huma Abedin, John Podesta, all of our good friends at Teneo, Doug Band, all those Blackberries, the Teneo Blackberries, doing things. Teneo means to take, meaning they're doing topples. They're doing topples, okay? Those are the House Blackberries. And then the second half of the story is basically we're going to give these Blackberries here that we were doing all these takes with, and we're going to hand it over to this unsuspecting group in the Senate, and we're going to say they did it. So they're going to be the last man standing, or the last person who's handed the Blackberry. So let me show you what I mean here. I don't know why the camera is not bringing that up a little bit better. Maybe it's because I did lighting error. But I just want to show you in 6 panels. We call this the caboose. Maybe I'll turn it this way. Better? Better light?
Yeah, that's good, George.
Better light? Okay, so it works like this. Libya, Pelosi, Imran. Now this weapons moved from Libya to Syria. There's an operation in Sudan, Kofar Black. There's some Ukrainians that fly in. There's some Iranians that fly in on helicopters, all kinds of things. You don't even know much about this. But again, blackberries are coming from, I'll put the blackberries in here. The blackberries are coming from the house, okay? There's the Ukraine uprising. We hire Russians on one side to shoot people. We hire Kolomoisky here with the Zazov Brigade to shoot people on the other. We toppled Ukraine. Again, House Blackberries did this. Adam Schiff, right, did this, okay? Now, 2015 is where we mixed the two groups together. 2015 is where we mixed. To the Senate, okay, to people like Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Now, they already have Blackberries. And the reason why you would use these is NSA is not going to stop these Blackberries. They're going to say they should be encrypted. This traffic should be encrypted. Don't undecrypt this. This is our diplomats making deals, okay? And that's where Hunter Biden gets involved. Now we know that we saw the Blackberry with Hunter Biden last night and Bob Ulinsky, right? Question?
We're getting a lot of comments on audio. It says the audio is back. I don't know if it's because you're not speaking into this guy. But
Okay. That's probably it. Okay.
yeah. Sorry, guys.
So real quick, if we want to switch to this camera really quick, I'll
just do a refresher.
a summary.
Yeah.
Because this camera normally has really great picture.
It's completely black.
It's maybe, do you have it on audio only, maybe? Going through there? That's why it's black.
No, camera
Do you want
should
to
be.
rejoin the lobby with that one, George?
Yeah.
Here, let me turn on this audio. Can you guys hear us? This is an audio check, mic check.
Restart. That's a possibility if you want to do that, but how many people are watching? 44. Okay, well, why don't we do this? We'll edit to this point. You can do that with StreamYard. Edit to this point.
Yeah. So George is joining back up. I don't know if you guys can hear us okay.
Add me. Okay.
Yep.
Now, add me as the camera. Okay. And for some reason, the light is not very good on this, but let me.
It looks decent on the.
It looks okay.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Okay, hold on. This we just got hit by a photon torpedo. We'll edit this so you can still recommend it to all your friends. So here we are at this Swing State newsroom, and we just thought we would do a very quick summary of the work that we've done and what we've learned this week with Hunter Biden and the Bob Ulinsky Blackberries. Okay, so there's two groups of Blackberries. One is the House Blackberries. Nancy Pelosi, okay, Imran Awan, Adam Schiff, okay, etc. All right, these are the House Blackberries. The House Blackberries are used for toppling countries. Okay, they are not the Hunter Biden Blackberries and the Senate Blackberries. The House Blackberries do the planning and execution of Libya. Then the weapons go from Libya to Syria. This is a success. This is a failure. This traffic is going back and forth for the overthrows. It's because it's diplomatic traffic, because these people are representatives of the House. They're not being stopped. This is how this is allowed to happen. Remember, Hillary Clinton with her State Department is using this humanity. Then they do Sudan, you're going to find. Then they do this thing in Ukraine where you hire a bunch of people to shoot people on both sides to topple Yanukovych with snipers. Now that takes you to 2015. 2015 is the cutover. You go from the House Blackberries used for covert action. Again, this is what Mr. Deep Blackberry tells me, Biden Blackberry tells me, and they switch over to the Senate Blackberries. Now, both of these people already had encrypted communications. They've been doing the House. The Senate had been working on the Iran deal ever since 2011. So they had encrypted communications before this. I'm just saying this is when Hunter Biden gets involved. Okay. They take the Blackberries. Okay. And they say, okay, great. Now we're going to get you involved in the Iran deal. So Hunter Biden's going to go to Kazakhstan with these Blackberries. He's going to go to Romania and all these different places, Luxembourg. There's a lot of weapons in this deal. There's a lot of things going on in the deal, but mainly to the different places to get resources for this Iran deal. That's the Iran deal right there. Now, this is what Biden Blackberry tells me. Mr. Biden Blackberry says, we're just doing energy deals. So now we're talking about the Senate Blackberries, energy deals. And then the same Blackberries are used to take down Trump, the coups. So there's the coup in the campaign, the coup in the transition, the coup before Mueller, the coup with Mueller, then the 25th Amendment, and then, of course, you have the impeachment coup, all run by the same people, these same people from Ukraine, Bill Taylor. Again, a lookalike or someone who's his brother is the guy who meets with me. So what we have now, the current coup against Trump right now, and maybe even the coronavirus breakouts in the swing states, are this still being run by some kind of encrypted communication by the same group. Okay, so this is how we say when we crack the back of the BlackBerry network, you crack all the coups and all these illegal covert actions all the way back to 2011 and maybe before then. So that's the quick summary. And the strategy here with Hunter Biden, the dumping that you're seeing on Hunter Biden with Bobulinski is everybody who's involved all along the way, they're all going over here, just like a train, like this was the beginning of a train. And everybody's cutting away Hunter Biden on the caboose here. Bye, Hunter. You're all by yourself now. And just as a train would pull away, as you would cut loose a caboose, that's poor Hunter now taking the blame for everything. And what we need to do to crack the network, that doesn't help you. Hunter Biden didn't do Libya, Syria, Sudan, and the Iran nuclear deal. By cutting away and blaming Hunter Biden as a scapegoat, as sort of a Lee Harvey Oswald, you're never going to get to this part of the network. And that's your 5-minute summary. And we'll get better at telling that story, but that's the gist of the story. So, Addie, take it from there.
Yeah, people. So did have some little bit of pixelation, but that was due to the connection. So just bear with us as we get this or experiment with this new camera and mic setup. But we're just doing a basically review summary of the past couple of days of George's work and everything that's transpired with censorship and everything that's going on in the digital world as well. But we had a question here about Bobulinski's Blackberries and these Blackberries. Are these the same Blackberries Tony has, George? Because you said there's 2 sets, right? Two sets of Blackberries?
Well, if you remember the story, I go to Taggart's house and I find Imran's Blackberries. So that's one set. They're later given back or smashed or whatever. Some go to the there was supposedly 3 different law enforcement agencies that get involved with those Blackberries. But Bobulinski definitely has some of the Blackberries involved with the Senate Blackberries. And those are the ones that are in this treaty thing. And they're also the ones that seem to be involved in these energy deals. Now, is the one Bobulinski showed, he showed Hunter with the Blackberry picture, is that one of the Blackberries that was given to me that night? I don't know. I wish I could see the back of Hunter's BlackBerry. That's a good question for Bob Ulinski, but I believe it was. Again, a 40-year person tells me that it was. So that's how I have to go on right now. So
Excellent.
One thing too is that you've covered sort of your what you've learned about how they set up the Blackberries with as far as using the key coding and have referencing other materials and not to me it feels like the Blackberry, you shouldn't assign it with the individual because it's sort of a grab bag, and like when you go on an operation you just sort of grab the phone. So the idea of linking like an IP address exactly to that person may not apply like a normal phone system. So
right.
maybe just kind of cover that, like, because I know we talked about how these congressional Blackberries that were used for the color revolutions were then later said to be used just for energy deals, and just kind of how that would work, where you kind of have this community pool of these encrypted devices that you'd be using.
Yeah. So Dave is mentioning the fact that there was a bag of these, and Huma Abedin had a bag of 50. She had 50 Gmail accounts. Taggart said there was 10 or 12 or whatever the number was of Blackberries in the bag. And Dave's right. You would never run an operation going Dave, Addie, Andy, Tom, because then it would tag us all being a part of the operation. You would say BB1, BB2, BB3, BB4, and we would all know amongst each other, or red, like in the movie Red, Pink, and Mr. Pink, Mr. White. What
Is that Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah,
Reservoir Dogs had the different names. Tarantino. So that amongst the group who everybody is. And you're right. If you do Libya, it may or may not be the same people doing Syria. So you just keep moving the Blackberries. This is why we think the records are going to be so important, and matching. At least the Blackberries give you a framework of who is communicating with who.
Mm-hmm.
The pilots will have a signature. The weapons brokers meeting people on the docks will have a different signature. The people actually involved in battle will have a different signature. They'll have a lot of communication before battle and after battle, but not much, leading up. They'll have spikes. Are they the Teneo Blackberries? Was that the House Blackberries? We don't know the answer, but we know Hillary Clinton generated 650,000 emails that are being suppressed. Yeah.
So if it was just a normal citizen and they had, and you're trying to, get their phone records, and you went to a court and asked for that information, how would that normally work in a normal situation as opposed to this where it's, State Department employees or congressional employees with these clearances, and how that would sort of differ between like just a normal phone user?
Well, a normal phone user, the Carter Page FISA application would be the thing, and you'd have to unmask and show a cause. I'm trying to think of the correct probable cause. And in order to get the FISA from a judge. If you're getting it from Rudy and he happens to be at a cocktail party, Rudy Contreras, he happens to be at a cocktail party with Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, but might be pretty easy. Just sign it like a cocktail napkin.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be hard. In actual fact, the FISA court usually rubber stamp approves almost everything they get.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. But you could see where if you had these Blackberries and you were running the operations, you would always be able to eavesdrop in on this. And then if anybody ever talked, you would have the goods on them as being a part of an illegal operation. You didn't want to keep your distance from this.
Mm-hmm.
And just have these kind of criminal groups run with these things.
Right. Well, I was just going to say that growing up here in Michigan, we had a mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, that had one of the first government issued devices. He was sending text messages, very similar to the Lisa Page and Peter Strzok with the personal relationship on a government device. But he was those texts were released like in the free press, but there was I believe they had to sue the SkyTel, like you said, to get those records. So I guess just more for the history of if you're a government employee and you're using these issued devices, like what your rights are as far as disclosure versus confidentiality, and then how that would play out for the different characters based on their clearances.
Yeah, remember that the clearance for Bob Ulinsky is a Q clearance. It's a top secret clearance.
Mm-hmm.
So that everybody who was communicating with probably also had a top secret clearance. Hunter Biden is the body man or the message man, if you will, for the chairman of the CEFC. This is the Belt and Road Initiative. So he's following that guy all around as his personal lawyer. He's going with them to Moscow. He's going with them to Kazakhstan, all these different places. So he probably has a top secret clearance in this, meaning Hunter Biden probably had to have a BlackBerry, which would enforce or be able to encrypt at a top secret level. And that's why the Bob Ulinsky BlackBerry that he showed last night on national television probably was one of the same kind that we saw way back then.
So Hunter was he got his clearance through the Naval Reserves. He was, I believe, 41 years old when he entered that program, and how he got and of course Naval Observatory, that connection there with the vice president and the Navy. I don't know, it just seems like a lot of close connections. So
yeah, it was very close. And we have James Biden in this. We have Robert Biden. And then we also have Hunter Biden in addition to Joe Biden. And and you mentioned the other night, Jamie Biden.
That was Pelosi.
Oh, Pelosi. Yeah, it was
It's hard to
there's
keep
a
all, it's hard to keep
lot
all
of
that.
Bidens in this story. I bet you they, keep one Gonter busy just configuring Blackberries for the Bidens.
Yeah, a lot of port families interest.
A lot of LNG ports. So there, back to you, Addie. Where are we at with questions?
Questions. If people got questions, please put them in the live chat. But I was just going to add to this conversation such that Aaron sent me an article actually about Glencore at dinner. So I was reading that at dinner time and just finding out about how big it is. It's just one of the biggest commodity traders in the world, founded by none other than Mark Rich. Although they don't exactly use his name now, they kind of have distanced themselves from that. Mark Rich being one of the co-founders there, but I found that quite fascinating. Because we've been talking about Glencore over the past couple of days, and it's billions and billions of dollars this company deals with. So it's something I wanted to add. But if people do have questions, it looks like China BB with aero plans. I'm not sure what you mean there, AIE.
Well, one of the things about China is it's probably Hunter Biden that goes with Chairman Yi, the chairman of this $323 billion company, up to meet Putin in 2017. We don't know that to be true yet, but we know Yi was meeting with him in 2017. And if that's true, and Rosneft was the deal that was happening, 10%, let's say, rounding it off, 10% of the Rosneft was the deal that was happening. They were buying into the China Belt and Road project. We know that most of that is Glencore. It was Glencore had bought into Rosneft along with the Qatari Investment Authority, sort of like the bondholder in the deal. And again, that tracks right back to Glencore. It's amazing. I think I got in so much trouble as far as disruption and so forth in this story because we had Mark Rich really from the very first days, the very first slides, and Glencore from the very first slides, Teneo from the very first day, DynCorp with Jeff Epstein from the very first days. So it's sort of like getting a building when you're building a skyscraper. If you get everything right on the corners and you get everything 90 degrees exactly and get all of your walls plumb, everything goes better. The windows go in better, everything goes in better. And that's really what we're finding out here is Hunter Biden's really carrying the water of Glencore to Moscow and to Kazakhstan and to all these different places. Mark Rich, a lot of people don't remember he sold Fox News or Fox Interactive.
21st Century Fox.
21st Century Fox with Marvin Davis, but he sold that over to Fox, the movie company, and then later the News Corporation was sold by Mark Rich to Rupert Murdoch. So there you go.
Yeah, and then I always think of the Zorro Ranch being Zorro is a fox in Spanish. So I don't know if that's a direct connection, but I always thought that was an interesting piece of trivia.
There you go. I like that.
Legend of Zorro.
The Legend
I
of
remember
Zorro.
watching him when I was a little kid.
Me too.
Yeah.
The Legend of Zorro Ranch. Jeff Epstein and Bill Richardson. Is that his first
Bill
name?
Richardson,
Bill Richardson.
Director of Secretary of Energy,
New Mexico.
New
Yeah,
Mexico.
governor,
Yeah,
or former
and
governor.
also governor of New Mexico. Yeah. So tell me uranium isn't a part of this story, right? Of course it is. So that wraps that up. I mean, the only other person that that's the deep BlackBerry person, the Biden BlackBerry person that I meet, and the other person was Deep Uranium. The reason I called him Deep Uranium is there's supposedly a series of small reactors along a sort of a railroad, sort of like as you would space out railroad stations, and they're running on small reactors. And this Kazakhstan and Congo and I guess Chad now with the blackberries are all feeding yellow cake, which is the raw material for the, and they're spinning it in Ukraine as fast as they can, and also Iran probably, and also in Pakistan to provide the Chinese enough energy for this Belt and Road.
How are
So,
things looking for Hillary, for moving Hillary? And asks Kate. She's still waiting, waiting in the wings there. Miss Clinton is.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, you have to.
A lot of patience.
If you don't crack this network, I don't know how you beat them. Beating up on Hunter right now seems to be the last thing that you want to do. You want Hunter to be giving you information. You want Hunter to be ratting out all of his co-conspirators. I think that's the only way you get back in the timeline. If you go after Hunter now and just get Hunter, you only get the last coup. But if you get Hunter to spill the beans, you get all the Libya, Syria, Sudan, Ukraine, the Iran deal, everything. That's just my take on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Addie, where are we at? You want to go to YouTube, defending YouTube journalists?
Defending YouTube journalists. That's what we're all about here, George.
You want to go to the next subject here quickly?
Yeah, let's move on real quick.
Do you want to go to? Do you want to do Glencore with Mark Rich and remember Pincus Green? I don't know if that is related to Pincus Warburg, but Paul Warburg was the running Kuhn and Loeb, one of the original founding member banks of the Federal Reserve System, and then also before Pincus Green and Mark Rich were running their own company, which later became Glencore. They were working for a company called Philips, which was one of the, I don't know if they were in the Four Horsemen of the German metals businesses, but they, had a lot of relationships with, going back to 1900, being, involved, internationally in mining and metals. So there is a long history of these, Mark Rich just didn't come out of left field, as this unique guy. I mean, he's working within, these, old, old mining and trading companies.
Bob Mueller is in a metals company right after World War II.
He has his own. Yep.
Yeah, right after World War II, they get into beryllium and hafnium and all these other esoteric metals that are used in fuel rods and centrifuges and so forth. So
also working for DuPont too.
DuPont was one of big contractor for the Manhattan Project. So we're going to switch here real briefly. We're going to give you an update on the lawsuit. We're looking, contrasting and comparing our lawsuit with sort of the Q Channel's lawsuit, where Dave Underdown made a good statement yesterday. We're definitely not in support of the whole Q set of theories. Not that we don't think we should defend their right to free speech.
No, I mean, we're interested in investigating criminal activities amongst elected officials, and you have to do the deep dives and understand the background of people to even do that. I mean, we're not just following shows that make these suggestions that you don't really have any hard proof on. I mean,
well, so
their names either.
Yeah. So, for instance, we're not going to talk about aliens or anything like that, but the aliens are actually mentioned in the House bill. Aliens, people who believe in JFK Jr.'s coming back and so forth, and these types of things. We're not saying that we're not supporting those. We're not saying, oh, those are we have proof of those. What we're saying is they have a right to say it, and it's not hurting anyone. If somebody says JFK Jr. is alive, or Elvis is alive, or whoever is alive, they have a right to say that. What we're focusing on is people who are actually involved in this sort of thing, right? And it's a very tight railroad track there. You can see we're interested in 6 years, 6 cars on a railroad, and we're focused like a laser on those things. We don't really have time or inclination to do anything else. And because it's coming up now at the end of the election cycle, it seems like YouTube's trying to kill the messenger, which is us, Neighborhood News Hour. But they're also trying to kill the message, which was, it ain't just Hunter. It's a whole bunch of other people, and they're trying to patsy Hunter right now. And those are the 2 things that I think they're trying to kill. And that's why we need to do our lawsuit separately. And in doing so, we hope to save not only the messengers, other YouTube journalists, but also the messages that you bring. You saw today where there's a whole bunch of folks up on Capitol Hill, Google with YouTube. You had Zuckerberg with Facebook, and of course, Dorsey with Twitter. And you can just see them trying to say that, alien conspiracy theories and, all these conspiracy theorist people, we need to have a special board that sits over there at YouTube deciding who can talk and who can't talk. You can just feel it coming. And this whole lawsuit and the takedown of all these Q channels just seems to be another one of those kind of false flags that feeds this machine to add more and more and more surveillance, more and more limitations on the Constitution. And what we have to do is check that. We have to say, no, we're not conspiracy theorists. We're over here on the journalism side. We're reporting what people have said. We're reporting, whether they're right or not, you decide, but we're reporting on sources who now are identified and what they have said. That's different. Going to the different places and reporting on what people say is different than having a blog. Okay, that's the key difference there. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. We have a GoFundMe to do that, and we're at about $1,886, which is going to cover our file fee and also serving YouTube. We're going to try to save money at every place we can. We got 2 hours of general legal advice today, not specific. And we're going to keep pursuing that to do as much as we can to get as many things as we can for as few dollars as we can.
Yeah. And just with the QAnon stuff, I know somebody just said that that Donnie O'Sullivan just reposted the NATO Courier story, that he's republishing that. For me personally, with the QAnon stuff, like, I've always been so weirded out on it. Like, there was people that were texting me right when I said that CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta was went to the same high school as me. I had a person that contacted me in a DM that was trying to basically get me to comment on this Tom Hanks basically buying a sex slave, a girl that went to the same high school as me. And, I didn't know anything about that, but just, that kind of direct targeting with, trying to, draw me into the QAnon theory stuff. Like, I try to just tell everything honestly, like manufacturing these kind of stories. I mean, I know I've never met Sanjay Gupta before. I mean, I know he's the, the doctor on CNN or whatever, but,
well, okay.
I just want to say, I mean, but it's a very like targeted thing. And that's why, like, even with doing these lawsuits, like, I just want to make it clear that we are not a QAnon following source. And as far as Donnie, continuing to go on this, us bullying this NATO athlete or whatever. I mean, it's over.
Right. Well, and so forth. Well, and remember, Donnie O'Sullivan's attack and targeting on me goes back 3 years.
Right.
I was looking for missing uranium. Okay, people don't remember this, but I was looking for missing uranium, not far from where we are here in Ohio. Donnie O'Sullivan is the one who made it about the port of Charleston. I was meeting with different people who were saying there's missing uranium in Ohio. Is it missing because it's powering reactors in China? That's what I was trying to find out. I had an informant telling me that's what was happening. Deep Uranium was telling me that's what was happening, that it was being diverted. That's journalism. What Donnie O'Sullivan has done, though, is he's promoted the conspiracy theories that everyone who follows Trump is some kind of weird
neo-Nazi,
neo-Nazi weird person.
nationalist.
Yeah, and you saw the co-owner here, a black woman from Ghana. I don't think she's a conspiracy. I don't think she's a white supremacist. She told you she wasn't with Black Lives Matter either. So people don't realize Donnie did this 3 years ago. Donnie did not report that we started with a very limited set of people to look into. We started with the fact that the Chinese foreign minister's spokesman said it was one of the American athletes. That's all there is to it.
Right.
At that time we did that story, Donnie suppressed the fact that my family was threatened to be killed by Ken Hale, to Jonestown, my family, also to Waco, my family. He followed that up with text messages coming toward my home within 5 minutes of my home twice. I have a witness to this. And I texted Donnie O'Sullivan those death threats. That I said, Donnie, the people who were in Africa, that were in the Horn of Africa, he had current access to the fort down there in Norfolk with the Special Forces fort, are texting me threatening death threats 5 minutes from my home. Okay. He chose not, I texted him before he wrote his article. He chose not to publish that. He instead took somebody typing something that I had nothing to do with. I never recommended any harm to happen to anybody. The only thing I was looking into was reports from Fort Belvoir of people who they had said had tested positive. So again, as a reporter, I am allowed to report credible witnesses. I had 2 people saying that Fort Belvoir was the place where it originated. At that time, everyone was saying, oh, coronavirus didn't happen until January in the United States. Then we had reports saying in China it was November. Now we have reports, the Harvard study, which goes all the way back to August of 2019, right? We had, Donnie didn't present the evidence of Dr. Ramuzi, which said that there was outbreaks in September, October, and November in Europe. So I might, and we had asymptomatic cases. We had the French team, about half the French team was sick. A great number of the Italian team was sick. I think there was her boyfriend, Claudel's boyfriend, the French gold medalist on the Dutch team was sick. So we had good evidence that there was a breakout. And this, at that time, there was people saying that you could be asymptomatic. So again, me reporting someone says that somebody working in security at Fort Belvoir was the first person who tested positive is me reporting. It's not me having it out for anybody. I didn't have it out for anybody. But the fact he's republishing that now that we're bringing a lawsuit to defend our rights against YouTube shows how deep state he is. He is the one who has promulgated all these conspiracy theories. He said that a 14-year-old that was wrestling a Trump icon, a CNN icon in a meme with Trump throwing the CNN icon down, a 14-year-old doing that meme was a Russian agent. That's Donnie O'Sullivan. So I don't know if you remember that.
No,
meme.
I
remember that
I
meme.
remember. No, I remember all of it. I also remember that Andy McCabe got hired by CNN, after he left. So
did James Woolsey. So did John Brennan. So did James Clapper.
Right.
All these guys got book deals and cherry interviews.
CIA News Network.
I mean, all these guys that were the part of the coup, all these people that carried the BlackBerry. Remember, Peter Strzok's BlackBerries disappear, right? And Lisa Page's disappear, right? Those are the people on CNN. That's why he's choosing to regurgitate his report. He's suppressed. I probably should be suing CNN. As a matter of fact, Donnie, you give me a great idea because you're as culpable as anyone. And you probably need to have your behavior checked, because you left out the fact that there was a real credible death threat with proof. Instead, you filmed some people and their hands typing things that I had nothing to do with, and I never sponsored, and I immediately disavowed it as soon as I saw it. So this is a legal statement, Donnie. I'm putting you on notice. Retain all records. I'm putting you on notice. Intent to file against you. Retain all records. I am suing you, Donnie Sullivan. CNN, retain all records. I am suing you, CNN. Putting you on record now, right now, with a spoliation notice. Retain all records. Retain the death threat of Ken Hale to me and my family, to you, Donnie O'Sullivan, before you published. You quashed that incredibly important information. You turned it around to make it sound like I was trying to encourage somebody to do bad things against the athletes. I was just trying to get to the truth of who, rather than go to World War III, which is what you would have, Donnie, stoking the flames of World War between China and Russia. I was trying to actually get to the root. We just had a discussion of how they came up, used epidemiology to find the Broad Street pump to get to the root of typhus. This is reporting, Donnie. What you did was very dangerous. And I never wished any bad. And I never wish any ill or any harm on any person. The object here is to get to the truth. And that's why we need this lawsuit more than ever.
Wait, so is this breaking news, George? Have you stated this before
Nope,
publicly?
this is breaking news.
So George Webb suing
Yes,
Donnie O'Sullivan
personally.
and
And
CNN.
and CNN.
Wow.
And spoliation notice, retain all records, Donnie. For you to have the gall to put that out after I sent you Ken Hale's death threats of me, and you suppressed that, Donnie. I didn't suppress that. You did. Okay. You came up with some pictures of some people typing on a computer that said bad things about the people in question. I did not ever condone any negative comments toward those folks. I never would ever condone violence against those folks. I'm putting you personally on notice, Donnie. You are going to be sued by me for defamation. This is a 3-year Javert pursuit of me as a journalist for telling the truth about your friends who do these kind of things. And these end up in hundreds of thousands of people dying, innocent people dying as collateral damage in these games and machinations. So Donnie, you are now put under notice, and you at CNN, Jim Sciutto, you, Poppy Harlow, you, Brian Seltzer, will all be witnesses. You're all fact witnesses. And you should be, all those folks that are in your cabal, Donnie, should be held personally liable. But I'm only coming after your assets, Donnie, and the assets of Jeff Zucker at CNN. So
You heard it here first, folks. George Webb, investigative reporter, is suing the Communist News Network and Donnie O'Sullivan.
and I'll do that personally. There will be no commingling of funds for the fund of suing YouTube. That's a completely separate thing. That's for YouTube journalists. That's to preserve YouTube journalists. We keep that totally separate. And I'm going to work for YouTube journalists in this election before I preserve my personal rights. But this sort of harassment that Donnie O'Sullivan's doing has to be stopped. At some point, it has to be stopped.
And this is a long time coming, George. Isn't
I've
it?
been very, very patient with him, extremely patient. And to bring this up right now when I'm trying to defend the rights of YouTube journalists is again, with a very one-sided report that suppressed the most important part of the story, which was I was the one being threatened. And not only being threatened, but somebody who was very credible, somebody who had held high positions in the State Department, held high positions in the military, had top secret clearance on a military base, making very credible threats about killing my family with biological weapons and killing my family with flamethrowers. That was suppressed by Donnie O'Sullivan.
Wow. So we had no knowledge of this beforehand, folks. George did not let us know that he was going to make this announcement.
I didn't either until Dave said
Yeah.
that about Donnie posting that. I can't believe it. Here's a guy who can't get his name right. I mean, and he has the gall to do that during my show. Are you kidding me?
Here we are, folks.
I'd end it right there. I mean, I think that's the headline. You know,
With that, he adds, Detroit Dave Underdown, and the incomparable Deep Journo, aka George Webb, GW, supporting journalists everywhere and freedom of speech, civil rights. This is the front line, people. The United States of America is the front line for these civil rights. And we aren't the biggest country in the world, but we're the most powerful and the most free in many ways. But we're losing that freedom day by day. And it's due to shills like Donnie Sullivan that this stuff has been going
What's
on.
that?
So,
Share the space
breaking
with CNN,
news:
DC.
George Webb is suing Donnie
Office
O'Sullivan and CNN.
Right.
You heard it here first, folks, on the Addy Ads channel.
And
They knocked him off BitChute. They knocked him off YouTube.
Vimeo.
They knocked him off
Spring.
Vimeo. They knocked him off anywhere they could. He still has his Twitter, though. So people go to George Webb's Twitter, GEORG, Webb with 2 B's. You can also check out my Twitter, Addy 1 spelled out ONEADDYADDS.
Okay, and I haven't filed yet, but that did it right there. I can't even believe that he would mention his egregious reporting. So there you go. I'll leave it right there. Lawyer up, Donnie. You've got to be stopped. This pursuit of this is like a monomaniacal attack on someone who's just trying to tell the truth. I'm just trying to show how your friends dealt with all the yellow cake coming out of the Western states and why it ended up in Iran and why it probably is ended up in China right now. I think the American people have a right. We won the Cold War, Donnie. That uranium was supposed to come to the United States, not to China from Russia through your friends. Okay. So it's time to learn how to do journalism. You're going to get a schooling the hard way, and I can't wait to see you in court.
So we're keeping it short and sweet here, folks. And we'll see everybody tomorrow, right, George?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So this has been the recap of the YouTube journalists strike back. Breaking news: George Webb is suing Donnie O'Sullivan and CNN as an individual. Detroit Dave Underdown, thank you for joining me, as well as Tom CIA. And we will see everybody tomorrow.
Hey, Tom CIA, say hi.
Hi, everybody. And bye.
And bye-bye. There
Stay
you go.
frosty, folks.
Stay frosty, everyone.
Okay.